Hey, it's Shash, and today we have a very special guest. We have Michael, who's hit $10 million with YouTube ads after he joined our program. And today we're going to cover the high level of how he did it, what his next steps are, and how he's dominating the solar industry. So let's get right into it. So Michael, I just saw the numbers that you showed me, which are completely legitimate. You showed me all the sales and like how much you guys generated, and basically in the last 12 months, you guys generated over $10 million with YouTube ads, which is just blew my mind. It's very impressive to see. So what would you say that especially in the solar industry, right? So guys, Michael's in the solar industry. He runs Empire Solar. He's like the marketing director there, and he also runs an agency for solar marketing. So what would you say in that industry, the biggest key to success with YouTube ads and advertising in general is?
For YouTube, I think, creative is king and kind of knowing exactly what to do. I mean, hats off to your course. It really opened up all the different possibilities. I do think it really boiled down to testing a lot, figuring out, dialing in your creative, and just knowing how to scale it, knowing what your ceilings are for your market, and just then also having those back end processes in place. Because if you don't have a back end process where you're treating the leads with the respect that they deserve, where you're following up with them frequently, and then you also have a process even after that, the initial 7 days, if you don't have that process, you're not really going to get the type of return that we've seen in the last 12 months. You might see maybe around like 15 or 20x return, which is still really good, but we've been able to squeeze our margins down to where we're seeing like a 30x return on our ad spend. So we're spending roughly 30K every single month, and we're able to consistently turn that out to pretty consistent $1 million per month. There have been some months where we're a little bit under that, but then there have been some months where we're doing 1.6 million off of the same spend.
Got it. So really great creative, and then having an excellent sales process so you can take those leads and convert them. What would you say is the key to really great creative, especially in the solar industry? Obviously, you don't want to give away all the secrets, but
I mean, I think the most important thing, especially with YouTube, any creative, it's the hook. And I do think it's testing multiple hooks, because there are going to be things that you think that might be like just so simple and that they're not going to work, and it ends up being your best hook that you attach to your creative. So testing multiple hooks. The one thing that I think that I constantly see, just to give like maybe a good like nugget of advice, is most people are putting their call to action way too late, like at like 45, 50 seconds. And unless you have like such killer content that you're getting 30% retention up until that point, you're missing out on those valuable clicks that are going to eventually lead to leads and sales. So try to get that call to action where you're telling them what to do to click on the button. Try to get that, at or before 30 seconds where you have the better retention rate.
that makes a lot of sense, and I've seen that too. That's where we recommend doing an early call to action. So really cool to see that you guys have had the same experience. And I agree 100% with the various hooks and testing hooks aggressively. Now, when you're coming up with ideas for hooks, are there any sources of inspiration you take? Is there any specific methodology or way of finding or brainstorming hook ideas that you use?
At this point, I really just have a process in place where I set aside about an hour a day where I'm just writing. So a hook can really come from me just writing out like long form copy, where I just get this idea and I'm like, wow, that actually, like this thing that I have like, 2 minutes into my script, that could actually be a really good hook. And then I just go off on a completely different tangent and start writing, from that as the beginning. So it really is, at this point, it's just a process that I have in place where I'm writing every single day. When I was first getting into hooks, it really was just studying other people and what they were doing, not even in the solar industry. The best way that you can just get better as a copywriter is just seeing what other people are doing. Don't copy them entirely, but just look at the first 10 seconds of any good script and just be like, what is it that this line, that this sentence is trying to accomplish? And at that point, you kind of just be like, okay, how can I say that? How can I say that in a way that is going to resonate with my audience? Maybe dig at a pain point. And I think that's it's either pain or benefit that you're trying to resonate but when it comes to at least catching their attention. So if you're maybe digging at a pain point in the very beginning, the first like 15 seconds, that's going to be a really good, like that. Those are always really good hooks. To throw in a benefit that early is a little bit more difficult to catch somebody's attention, but it does work. Where, you know, in the solar industry where we could talk about like the rebates and incentives, if you're talking about that early on, that's a great way to get somebody's attention. But it has to really be done in a unique way, because everybody's just attacking those rebates as like as either a hook or get paid to go solar, all this kind of stuff. You do have to get creative. So I think if you're really going to be doing this, like just as a marketer, you have to just have that time put in place. Like every single day you're writing 1 hour, whether it's good, whether it's bad, you have to do it.
So 1 hour a day, what do you write? Is it just ad copy hooks, or are you writing landing page copy? How does that work?
I really focus on just script writing, as if it's going to be the next video, because we do shoot content pretty frequently. Now that it's the winter, we're not shooting as frequently, but we were shooting once a month where we're testing out like 10 to 15 different scripts. So it was really just focusing on that script. And from there, you just get these ideas where like, okay, that would actually be a better hook than it would be, like I was saying before, 2 minutes into the script. So it primarily, everything boils down to the script, because I think that's obviously step one. And then from there, when it comes to landing page copy, I'm always trying to create some sort of congruency between what's being said in that ad to what's being said on that landing page. That's the one thing I've noticed that gets you that better conversion rate, is if you have that congruent language between what you're saying in your ad to what you're saying on your landing page and in your funnel.
Yeah, this is really cool, because a lot of the stuff you're talking about in terms of testing multiple angles and then that congruency and ensuring that there's the same message being given, that's actually a lot of the content I'm going to be shooting tomorrow for like the updated version of my program, is just kind of how to build that system to churn creative out. Although that 1 hour a day idea is really, really good. I think that's brilliant. That's really cool. And what about in terms of editing? How do you guys edit your ads? Do you guys have an in-house editing team, or how do you handle that side of things?
We were fortunate enough in the beginning to actually have a editor, just kind of with a package from like a course that we bought previously. That recently came to an end, so we're testing out a few different ones. I think there's Iris Bits. That's the one that we're currently on. I think that's the name. If it's wrong, I'll get back to you and I'll let you know which one. But we're currently testing a few different things: Fiverr, Upwork, a few monthly subscriptions in terms of the editing. But I don't think the editing really matters so much, at least from what I've seen for the types of ads that we're running. As long as it's clean and you don't have anything that's just choppy, I really think that you can get a decent ad, where as long as you're just getting to that B-roll or just some sort of variable change every 5 to 10 seconds, I don't think the quality has mattered too much. At least from what I've seen. We haven't tested, paying somebody $1,000 just to edit our videos. I don't know if that would really make up for it, but we've been able to keep things kind of low budget, which is really good for the bottom line.
Yeah, I generally find with the editing, it's more about timing and ensuring that everything flows, and that kind of comes from the actual copywriter and person who shoots the ad, because they have to know what the vibe of the ad is, right? Like if they're trying to, for example, emphasize key points and use the editing to emphasize those key points, right? But if you just give an editor that without a clear direction, then they're just gonna do generic editing, which is not gonna have an effect on the ad. But I've seen editing have a really great effect when it's something that from the beginning, like the script writing phase, it was, hey, we're going to use this scene and we're going to use this sound effect exactly as we say this to emphasize a key point, right? So we've seen that actually make a big difference, but it has to be like not the editor figuring that out, because the editor is just not gonna, unless they're a copywriting genius, which they're not going to be, right? So
No.
it has to be the copywriter and the video person who's in the ad. Ideally, the copywriter and the person who's in the ad is in the same, if you're going for that kind of tightly scripted kind of setup, right? But then also
Yeah.
you can just go with a really well scripted ad and you don't need much editing at all, because the message is the most important thing. There's only a few cases where I've seen
Yes.
editing being really, really key, and that's usually when the actual copywriter, the person who's in the ad, and the editor being the same person, because then it's just so hard to get that vision across without that ability to either communicate it super clearly or being the same person for it. So
Yeah, I would say you kind of mentioning that made me think that's probably another act, like at least something that's attributing to the success that we're having is I am a control freak. So I'm doing everything. Like I'm the guy that's copywriting, I'm the guy that's in the video, and I'm the guy I'm not editing, but I'm at least giving that direction to the editor and letting them know that there's a particular tone and a particular vibe that we're trying to accomplish. So I do think that's probably another thing where, I mean, if you're the person that's involved in every single aspect, you do have a better chance of success.
absolutely. So moving on, I know we quickly mentioned, basically how the solar industry is changing, and you mentioned that there's so much change happening in the industry. Could you talk about how solar marketing is changing as opposed to previous years?
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago, I mean, I came from the solar industry. I was a salesperson, and I was kind of fed up with the leads that I was getting. We were getting shared leads with other companies, and they were really bad quality. So um, I saw this opportunity to learn advertising. So I kind of got into it. And at that point, I think that there was not that much of a barrier to entry. It wasn't that competitive. So it was easy for someone that didn't have that background, at least if you put in the time on the back end, like a couple hours here and there, you can learn this thing kind of like I did. But it quickly became my full-time job. So it was something that I just engulfed myself in. I was doing it every single day, literally every single day, like no days off for 2 years. And I don't think that even if you have that type of approach, that you can just be like, I'm going to learn solar marketing now. It seems to be such a niche industry from a marketing standpoint that unless you really have that understanding of how the industry works, how the sales process works, you're not going to be able to like deliver a good product to your client that they're going to keep. This is a retainer model. They have to keep coming back to you. So if you're just delivering poor quality leads, they're going to get out of that contract as soon as it's over. And I don't really think that there's much of it's just too competitive. I don't think that there's an opportunity right now, like there was 2-3 years ago when I got into this, for somebody to just come in to learn it. Even a marketer from another industry. Like if you were getting leads for dentists and stuff like that, and you come into the solar industry, I firmly believe that you're probably going to get, your teeth knocked in. Probably. Just it's not easy. It's very difficult, especially when you get into YouTube. There's a lot of guys that are on the Facebook side that I mentioned last time that you can just copy and paste a picture and an ad copy. And if you have a decent funnel, you're going to get okay results. It's very easy to rip people off on the Facebook side. YouTube is a whole different animal. So, and I do think that is going to be the bigger player in terms of platforms. Google, I just have more faith in Google's algorithm than Facebook. So for anybody that's like trying to I'm not like deterring anybody to try to get into this. Like there's plenty of rooftops for everybody to be wealthy in the solar industry, but I don't think it's as easy as it used to be. And I think a lot of people go into it thinking that it's going to be easy, and it's not.
Yeah, it sounds more like an opportunity for either solar marketers or solar companies that already are in the industry to kind of up level using YouTube ads and improve their skills with that. It sounds like there's more of an opportunity there versus somebody who's completely new, just chasing, the next shiny object syndrome of like, hey, solar marketing is cool, while it's more like, hey, if you're already in like the industry, or you're well positioned where maybe you have a good understanding of home improvement, maybe you have some sort of edge, right? Whether it be understanding how to really structure lead flow for high-end deals. Essentially, if you're in a position where you have some sort of edge over other people, right? So whether it be industry experience or experience in a similar industry or experience with a certain type of, high ticket sales, for example, high ticket home sales, etc., then there's probably an opportunity there. But I do think that, like you said, it's it's never a good idea to just chase a shiny object, right? Like the reason you've had so much success is because you've been in the solar industry for years. You've been a solar sales rep, and then you combine that with obviously the YouTube advertising knowledge and YouTube advertising kind of training, but you had the foundation of understanding your industry.
Yeah, like I feel like you have solar reps that want to get into learning advertising like I did a couple of years ago, and you're really going to take that time away from what's making you the most money, that could make you the most money, to learn this new thing. And yes, it is valuable, but it's, unless you have the time to dedicate to putting 5, 6, 7 hours minimum a day into learning this whole thing, you're going to have people like myself and people that are way better than me just completely outbidding you and outperforming you, and you're not going to get the best results. And now you wasted your money on ad spend when you could have put that money in the hands of somebody that knew what they were doing. I see the solar industry going in that direction within the next few years. There's going to be less fly-by-night marketing companies, just like there are going to be less fly-by-night solar companies. And there's going to be a lot more legitimacy. I think a lot of this stuff is going to get cleared out within the next year to two. And at that point, there's going to be probably a handful of really good solar marketing companies, home improvement marketing companies, and there's going to be probably a handful of decent solar companies left. That's a whole different discussion for the solar industry in terms of where they're going. But pretty excited just with what we're seeing on YouTube. The last even few months, we were noticing our cost per lead going up, and we just looked at cost to acquire, and it was still in line with last year. So I'm seeing the algorithm get a lot smarter about like who they're serving ads to. So although we're getting this higher cost to cost per lead and higher CPMs, it seems to be that we're just serving our ads to a better audience, and it's just going to cost a little bit more to do that. But our cost to acquire has stayed in line over the last 12 months. When it comes to like our worst month, like Q4 is typically the worst time of year. Our worst month, Q4, was still aligned with last year, and we still had a higher cost per lead. So I think that the people that can track cost per appointment like us are going to have a huge advantage over the next 12 months. And I think a lot of people, unless you have those processes in place, you're going to be left in the dust, not being able to keep up.
Got it. And what processes are you talking about specifically?
We use Hyros for our tracking. So since we have our in-house call center, we're able to just attribute which campaigns are giving us appointments. So there are some campaigns where I've completely killed because I've got a cost per lead at $30, but then I have a cost per appointment that's at like $350. Where then I'll have another campaign where I have a cost per lead at $80, but my cost per appointment is $160. So if we're able to identify those just better campaigns, cost per appointment is way more important to us than cost per lead, because then we're also able to optimize our call center. What we used to need 3 employees for or 4 employees for, now we just need 3. So we've been able to optimize our call center at the same time, just getting that better data.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So I see a big shift happening from cost per lead, which is kind of this holy grail business model in a lot of these lead generation industries, to cost per actual showed up appointment, which makes a lot of sense. And then tools like Hyros obviously help with being able to track that. And then I think one of the key advantages you have with both Empire Solar as well as your agency, which is, what's the agency called? Is it?
We're keeping it simple. It's Empire Digital. We don't.
Empire Digital.
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Empire Digital is that you guys have an in-house call center. So could you go a little bit into that and what that entails and how it helps you guys?
So we notice a lot of times that we have to turn away other solar companies because they don't have an in-house call center like we do. They have like maybe a receptionist that they want handling their leads. We just notice that they're not followed up with enough. So that's always been like, we're constantly turning people away. No, we can't help you. We don't have an in-house call center. We can't get you the appointments. So we're in the process right now figuring out how we can offer that as a solution, where we're just going to plug in and start to grow our call center and use those same guys to manage leads from our other campaigns for our clients. So we're going to be able to control the entire process as well, which I think is going to lead to a better client experience, higher retention for us. Clients are going to stay with us longer because, once again, I think that the more that you can control in your own business, the better chance of success that you have.
Absolutely, I agree with that. The better you can convert your leads, the better you'll do. And a big part of that is having the follow-up and basically the systems to actually generate revenue out of those leads, right? If you're generating leads, but you don't have a sales team that's just following up with them and SOPs for follow-up, then you're losing money, right? And that's something that a lot of businesses, especially in the local lead gen space, they lack. I used to do SEO in the local lead gen space like 8 years ago, and yeah, it was like, hey, why aren't you answering your phone calls?
Yeah.
And then the bill date comes, it's like, hey man, these leads are too expensive. It's like, dude, you didn't answer like half of them.
Yeah. The one thing that we constantly see is they're just unable to maintain that whole follow-up. And that's another thing. Like, a solar rep thinks like, I'm going to get into solar marketing, so I'm going to get my own leads. I'm going to run my own ads. I'm going to like figure out how to do all of that. And then I'm also going to follow up with the leads. I'm going to call these guys 3 times a day for the next 7 days to make sure that like I'm doing everything to manage that process. And I'm going to try to close them too. That is a 70-hour work week if you want to do everything right. So unless you really want to do that, like, just have somebody that knows what they're doing do it for you.
Like you.
Yes, that's the segue. So I mean, we are going to start working with more solar reps. Mm-hmm. We are going to start working with some smaller companies. We've been piloting mainly large companies that are doing as much volume as we are, but we've found that a lot of these guys are doing it from door to door. So now we're able to introduce like a whole new way to generate leads. So we're seeing these guys with pretty exponential growth. And since they already have those processes in place, they already have the budget to scale. So we have people already interested in, spending tens of thousands of dollars with us per month. So yeah, pretty excited about that. So if for some reason you're a solar rep or solar business owner watching this right now, you can inbox me on Facebook and we can talk about scaling your business.
Yeah, we can put a link below, or we can also put in a link below to your website as well, wherever.
Awesome.
So one question I have for you is, with your agency, what's kind of the plan to scale it, right? Are you guys doing a cost per appointment kind of thing, or is it like, what's the exact business model you guys are doing with your agency, and what's the plan to kind of scale it over the next couple of years?
So we have, we do typical retainer model. That may change as we get things dialed in and we have more experience in other markets. But right now we're just doing retainer model. But the one thing that we do to set ourselves aside from the competition, we don't do long-term contracts. You can literally cancel anytime. We don't do startup fees like all these other guys do. Like all these other solar marketing agencies, you're either going to get locked into like 1, 2, 3 month contracts with ridiculous retainer startup fees and your ad spend. Like, you're investing tens of thousands of dollars without even really knowing it's going to work. So with us, it's just, hey, we're going to go week to week. Week number 1, if you feel confident going to week number 2, great. Let's move to week number 3. After we get through maybe 6 to 8 weeks, at that point, we'll talk to them like, hey, do you want to do a monthly retainer? Do you want us to have, do you want to have exclusivity in your market? Which is something that we're going to be doing as well. Like, we won't run ads for anybody else in your market. You have exclusivity to our content. So those are things that we're going to do to really set ourselves aside from everybody else. We've been burned just like every other solar company out there when it comes to marketing agencies. We've, been burnt for tens of thousands before we learned to do this on our own. We paid one company, I think, like 20 grand for appointments and got one. Like, wow. Before we started doing this on our own, like, there are serious risks involved and we don't think there should be. So I think the week to week is a really good way to just ease that tension. Let us do the work. Let us prove that we can do it, and we'll take the relationship from there. That's
a very, very favorable model for anybody who wants to jump on and try it, right? So it makes it like a easy no-brainer, right? Like, it's like, yeah, no-brainer. It's, you can cancel any week. So that's really cool. Cool. So I think we covered most of the topics I wanted to talk about, which was creative, solar industry, and kind of where things are going with that industry, as well as your agency. I'm curious, is there anything else that you feel would be of value to people in the solar industry that we haven't covered yet?
I think those are probably the main things that we can touch on without going like a mile deep. Maybe on another call when we do 20 million, we'll we'll talk about where the industry's going at that point. Hopefully, we do that within the next 2 years.
Absolutely. I'm super excited and proud of you because you've just absolutely killed it. $10 million, first gold award winner. I think we even offered to fly you down to Cape Town, but I think you're got a family, so it's a little bit difficult.
It is, but
we'll send you something nice. We'll send you a nice bottle of something. I don't know what you like drinking, but congrats. Guys, if you are interested in the YouTube ads coaching program, I am literally filming the last videos for the update in a couple of days. So we're completely revamping the course. All the stuff Michael's talked about in terms of the creative testing, etc. All of that's covered in the program. It's what's working in 2022. So there'll be a link below. And Michael, I think you guys have gotten like a 5,000x. I can't even calculate the ROI you guys have made on the program, but it's absolutely ridiculous. So
just do it. Like for us, the community, the fact that you guys are constantly updating the content within the course. I mean, you're buying, you get a whole new course. It's like having a Tesla. It's like a software update. You get a brand new car, every few months. It's literally the same thing. You have a community where you can bounce ideas off of really good marketers. Hands down, like best investment that we made in terms of advertising.
Amazing. Thanks for saying that. And yeah, guys, thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to check out Michael's Facebook link. I'll make sure to post that below so you guys can get in touch if you're interested in solar marketing and want to get more solar leads. And thank you, Michael.